Hello, welcome to this week's transits, or Astro Breeze transits of the week. Astro weather, it's sort of like weather to me. So let's go ahead one day and let's check this out. We've got, our end of the year transits. The last, the last little bit here, a little over a week to go, right? Like 2 weeks exactly, just about. So anyway, we're coming, and you can see the sun's at the end of Sag. We're just about ready to go into our in our winter solstice, and look how spread out everything is right now. It's kind of nice, Remember we had so much that was just so bunched up, and how things were. So just keep the shape of that in mind. We have Venus in Scorpio, and then if we have Uranus over here in Taurus, and Jupiter, of the inner planets, also in Taurus. So we have a nice wide range of things. It almost might seem too busy. So we've got our sun coming just to the end of this, and today is really just a lot of moon aspects. We can see that the moon's at, right now, the time of this recording, it's at 29 Pisces. So, by later, it will, pretty soon, it'll flip into Aries. And right now, it's also one of those void of course moons. So I think it was like we got about another 30 some minutes to go. Anyway, I think things, we'll see how it all pans out. But, things that are routine and that you're doing don't seem to be as affected as something like a contract or signing something. So, all right. Now I mentioned that. What are my notes? So today, right now, we just pretty much have a moon aspect day. There's days that the moon, of course, makes lots of aspects to everything because it's so fast moving. So it's usually making something to something. And then some days there's, planetary aspects. And then every once in a while, there's a day with nothing. And then there's other days with them jammed up. It's really interesting. But today's just moon aspects. We have moon, and it was changing through the day, of course. So it started out with, we had a sextile when it was at 19 degrees over to Uranus. So that just kind of brought in how just Piscean, spacey, earthy, taking care of business things, maybe not really nailing stuff down, kind of getting mucked up a little bit because the moon's finishing up there in Pisces. Had just gone over Neptune, so that was kind of dreamy, earlier. So conjuncting Neptune, we had that, kind of confused, muddled energy to that. And then it squared the sun, at 27, it was over here. So we had a little angst of things. And then now, as we get on in, it'll sextile Pluto. Where's Pluto over here? Or it just did, actually. So had a lot of boom, boom, boom. And most of the aspects, except to the, squaring the sun, were all outer planets. So a little bit different than inner, maybe less personal. It could be. Anyway, that was kind of like today, where we're coming into this week, and we're at the half moon, getting to that, and then we're coming up to our full moon on Christmas Day next week. All right, so 20th tomorrow. It's one of those kind of quiet days, which I think is good, but it's got an interesting one funky aspect. The moon is square to Mercury. So the moon will be, as it goes into Aries earlier, it'll be that 3 degrees. So we might get, and it was just a little like, forward aggressive emotions, with, solid, it's like, I didn't figure it out. You didn't tell me right, with Mercury, it's like, we didn't go over it enough or something, it's in that solid earth squaring that moon that wants to just quit with it, wants to get on with stuff, doesn't want to be mucked up in the details and everything. So anyway, that could be a little bit of annoyance tomorrow, Wednesday. What was I going to say about so the void of course moon, it was like yesterday, well, it's today, but it would have been the Tuesday, the 19th, and the very next aspect that it makes The moon aches, it was 4. Let's see, then it moved into Aries. Yeah, so it's square Mercury. That's like, so it's kind of like ew, which is today or tomorrow. Okay. Then we come in Thursday, the winter solstice. So we have the sun moving into, let me move it ahead just a little bit of time so we can see it. Hours. I want it. There we go. Good enough. All right, so sun moves into, you can see it moves into, well, before that, well, no, I'll just say it now. Okay, so sun just moves right into our earth sign Capricorn. And then the moon, right there moved right into the earth sign of Taurus. So right at this time, right when it moves in, it's Eastern time at about 10:45 in the morning. We have both of those signs moving in, changing. We got the sun and the moon kind of changing right around the same time. Moon a little bit, teeny bit faster, but nice trine. So Thursday, around 10:45, we got a little nice trine with the sun and the moon in earth signs, earthiness, grounded, down to earth, practical. Looking for last minute Christmas deals, maybe, solid decisions, nailing it down. The moon is in that nice, hedonistic, solid security moon phase. It's in that part of your chart. This week we've got, the moon in Aries and then Taurus and then Gemini, and then it slips a little bit into Cancer, right on the full moon. But that part of your chart. So go look and see where that is, or if you don't know your time, what planets are in that will be affected, cyclically. This is the month, this is the time that the moon's over there. So what else I'm going to tell you about this? Okay. So, the kind of a busy day, actually. There's a lot of moon aspects. There's a lot of planet aspects. So let me just go over the moon ones. So the moon, it's interesting because they're all conversations. So the moon has to meet up with Mars, Venus, and Pluto. So with Mars, it's like not the moon's most favorite energy, Mars. Okay, so the moon is emotions, and then we have Mars as like aggression and stuff. So it's kind of like a little clash, but it's in a trine. So it's like maybe the moon is like liking to be rescued or get out of the house or have some action and shake up all the moodiness or something like that, because it's not having a good conversation with Venus, and it's not having a good conversation with Pluto. So that's kind of like your wants and depths. So something might be coming up from the past. Your wants and needs kind of maybe don't fit certain things. So yeah, so that's the moon stuff. That's the emotional. I'm kind of focusing a little bit on some of the moon things because it is the emotions. It is our emotions. And it's like kind of like this time of year, especially, around the holiday times, it just seems to get worse for a lot of people. There's, sometimes loved one is gone. There's always problems with certain relatives. People won't see eye to eye. So there's a lot of stuff like that. So I just wanted to mention that. So it will pass if some of that stuff comes up as emotions. But then also, did I miss it? Oh yeah, the moon is also trining the sun. We already talked about that. Trining Mars, trining the sun. All right, trining Mars. Well, when it moves on, okay. Where else? All right, so getting into, on the 21st, on our solstice, our winter solstice, it's at 9, let's see, the sun moves in, the moon, let's see what time it exactly was. Anyway, we got the sun in opposition to Uranus. Okay, I'm not sorry, the sun, Venus, there we go. Venus in opposition to Uranus. So what is that? Uranus 19 in Taurus. So it's kind of like, it doesn't really like being where it is. Uranus is just kind of struggling in there. It's like the expansive, unpredictable energy is just stuck there in hedonistic, solid, secure oriented Taurus. And it's opposing Venus. You can see Venus is opposing it. It's just 1 degree off right here. If I go back a few minutes, it'll there, but you can see the opposition. So Venus doesn't really like being here either. It's in detriment. She doesn't like that. So it's cause, Venus, like you may have to really look, your values, your pleasures, what you want, your loves, maybe there's a little bit of opposition. Maybe there's a little bit of, you need to look at it closer from a different point of view. You might need to take a second look at something. This is kind of maybe a second guessing aspect. But it's good because Venus, is always upbeat on that level. And, I think it kind of, except for the signs, I think it likes the Uranian maybe unpredictability, kind of knocks it out of that trenches of Scorpio. So I think it gets along a little bit on that level. All right, but it always adds a little bit more excitement. Maybe something out of the blue. Maybe something comes up like that. And then Mercury, we have a nice Mercury sextile to Saturn because we got Mercury, it's retrograding. So you can see it's combust into the sun now, which is very interesting. So we got the fusion of Mercury in its retrograde motion going back over the sun, the sun going the other way. But anytime it's like at that early degree, and actually it was just a little bit before, it was when it was at 2 degrees, it made that nice sextile, but it's still lingering here. I'm late. It's like I'm at 10 in the afternoon. Here, let me go back. Almost there. There it is. Okay. So it was like 1:40 in the afternoon. Now we got a little bit better view of it. So we can see that. Thank you. See that aspect there. So Mercury, sextile, Saturn. What does that mean? Mercury, communications, sextile, kind of nice, half a trine, ease and flow. Maybe not quite as lazy and nice as a trine, but there's a better conversation. And then with Saturn, Saturn, paying attention to those things you really need to pay attention to. Maybe this is where communications are heard. You communicate, not really soberly, but seriously. You take something to heart, and maybe let people see that you're rooting for them. You got their back. You're covering that base. And then we've got Mars in a quincunx over to Uranus. So you can see it almost looks opposition, but it's not. It would be over here, where Venus was. So it's just a little, the same, like 30 degrees away from Venus. So that's kind of like they don't have a really good conversation right now. They're both busy doing different things. Your Venus needs your money, your, what you want, and then your energy. It's kind of going in different directions. They don't see eye to eye. And then your energy, Mars, liking to be there, in Sag, just like, yay, it was my sister, brother sign, And then it's like it comes up against a bump with Uranus. Bloop, something kind of funky out of the blue. Maybe pulls I don't know, they're not in a good conversation, that fire, that energy. And then, it meets up with it's like Debbie Downer a little bit with Uranus. I'm over here in Taurus still, and you get to go be over there in Sagittarius. Don't mind me. I'm just here. And maybe a little bit of guilt kind of complex or something like that resonating in. So don't buy it. Don't stand for it. Just acknowledge and then send that dark energy back and be back to joyous because, Mars, let Mars and, enjoy that. Let your energy be happy right now. And it's kind of, just at the last little bit here while the sun is still there, they kind of are like, yay, a little bit of that before it kind of moves, it all changes there. So the next day or later that day, we'll just go on the next day. So on the 22nd, Friday, we have mainly a moon day. We've got the moon now, in Taurus, and it's going to be going over, it just went over, earlier that day, it went over Jupiter. So moon and Jupiter, nice, right? Maybe it's kind of like, and then it'll get like to the midpoint of that as well. So it's not just an isolated. So moon just a little bit goes, emotional over Jupiter. Some like, oh wow, maybe some big possibilities, and then something sudden, maybe with Uranus, kind of in there. The moon is also nice there. I mean, it likes it there because it's a nice energy. And let's see, what is the moon? Yeah, it's exalted there. That's what I thought. It's exalted in there. So the moon is just happy, and it's kind of maybe making that whole little party there. It's that little stellium, almost stellium, a little bit more livelier, maybe because it's happy. The moon is, in its exaltation, and it's kind of like helping the other two deal with maybe sometime that fixed not wanting to move Taurian kind of energy. So that might just kind of lighten things up there. I sure hope so. But then the moon's also making a sextile to Saturn, which is good, right? So it's kind of, promising, when it was at 2 degrees here, you got to just kind of go with me with those degrees. Because when I stop it may not be right there. But if I went back a few hours, it would be. But anyway, it's in a nice, serious conversation with, it's like a nice dissolving energy. Maybe it's like time to let go of certain emotions that have been holding on for a long time. Letting go of people, fears, crap you've been even laying around. It's like Pisces and Saturn, or Saturn and Pisces is that sort of dissolving energy. And then the moon is like maybe that emotional fixedness is kind of undergoing some change because the moon is going through that sign. All right. And then, we talk about sextiling Jupiter, which is nice. I think it's kind of maybe bringing a bigger, maybe more humanitarian or larger, could be exemplifying your emotions. So it could be, a deep dive in there, or maybe a bit of security, feeling like, finally. All right. But anyway, then the sun is also, we've got the sun and Mercury there conjunct. You're right there. The sun, Mercury's going retro still, and the sun is, of course, going forward, never goes retrograde. But we got that combust or Cassini, and it's on its retrograde hit. And we got that again, the fusion of that, that fusion of sun and Mercury, they're together in an earth sign. So it's maybe really grounding. I think I see this real heavy earth groundingness, practicality, maybe people seeing the reason of stuff being so practical and grounded here. And then especially with the sun moving into Sirius Capricorn, right there, Mercury, serious stuff. So it could be a lot of conversation on some serious stuff. It could be a really interesting day this Friday, as Christmas comes to its almost frenzied crescendo. All right, 23rd, Saturday. Mercury changes signs now, right? It's like now the sun moved into, it's kind of nice. They sort of changed places. Sun moved into Capricorn, and then Mercury moved back into Sagittarius. So I think this is maybe a little bit more of an uplift feeling again. Communications picks up, gets a little bit maybe more spiritual minded, higher minded. Let's look over there. That could be interesting. And then it's getting closer to a conjunction with Mars. You can see there. All right. What else is going on this day? A lot of moon aspects. Moon, we said it's, it went over Uranus, so that could be really interesting. Maybe you're crossed, somebody crossed you. Maybe your emotions are fixed on something. You're fixated on something. That's kind of an interesting one. So, and then the moon is also not in a good relationship with Mars. So there may be more emotions than energy. Moon is also opposing Venus that day, which could be, again, a little bit reflecting on, it's not in good conversation with Mars or Venus. So it's just like maybe frustration. So it will pass. You can't please everything every time. So just breathe and you'll get past it. And then we get a nice sextile over to Neptune. So that kind of fuzzes things out. People get into the Ben and Jerry's and stuff, or the late night liquor with that one. Okay, what else here? Going on into Sunday, Christmas Eve day, the moon changes into festive Gemini. Yay! So maybe like all that grounded Taurian, deals, wrapping, or just being solid on something, whether you get into the holiday stuff or not, just getting solid. But then when the moon goes into Gemini, it just lightens the mood. It's maybe more of a thinking than feeling. We might have been kind of entrenched in stuff, emotions, and now it's kind of freed up that energy, and it's more lively, festive, really nice. And then that day, which is really kind of interesting, well, it actually kind of closes in. You can see Venus at 23 degrees. Here's 51. If I did it later, which I might do, we'll see that it makes this nice trine to Neptune. That could be, it starts here late, or later in the day on the East Coast and earlier on the West Coast. But that is a nice aspect coming into Christmas. It's really, I think it's a nice vibe, with any time of, we got a Venus Neptune trine is really nice. But then this is an interesting one because Venus really would like to be where Neptune is. She's exalted over in Pisces. And then Neptune would feel nicer being in Scorpio. It's a water sign, so it would be trining it. So they would kind of a mutual receptive kind of trine, so to speak. So there could be some nice flow of spiritual camaraderie. It could also be a little fascination with somebody you meet here, but may not last. It's just kind of like all of a sudden you see them in a different light that they're not always like that, though. Just a warning. But on its pleasant side, it's a good aspect. It's a nice aspect. And then the moon is opposing Mars. There's always got to be a frickin' turd in the punch bowl. Oh, God. So, we got motions now against the energy. So maybe there's like a little push pull, but with the immutable signs, it's not that bad. It was maybe a rabbit turd instead of a cat turd. Sorry for the analogies, but it's kind of getting late. No, I'm serious. All right. So anyway, because they're sort of they're mutable and they're mushy, and then we've got that, the moon will square, over to Saturn, but then as the moon moves on, it will then make a opposition over there to Mars. Oh, well, actually, I should move it. There it is. Is it Venus? See, look at Venus just passed there. I got to go a little bit by time. Hold on. Let me go hours. Forget Venus there's 24. There we go. So when is it? It was like, here's 4. Oh, I got to do the minute. That just would be so cool if it were here. Okay, 4:44 and 40 minutes. Just being funny. Here on the 24th. So we got the, it didn't line up to the minute, but it will be later. Right there. See, look at it's like right at 59. So it's going to be like going into kind of the next day. Get there. And then we can see Mars almost, it was just a little bit earlier, making the opposition to the moon. Or actually, the moon would be a little bit later, about a half hour later or so. All right. And that's Monday. But then we're coming into the opposition, on the next day. Let's go. There it is. Just about almost. I'll just heads up before next week. So we got the full moon. It's opposite the sun. The moon's opposite the sun. That's why it appears full, because it's got the reflecting that all that light of the sun. When the moon is with the sun, it's covered up. It's like you can't see Mercury, when it's that close to the sun either. It's too much light from the sun. It blinds out everything. That's why a conjunction here is so like it fuses it together. So anyway, we're coming into that full moon. The full moon will be, it's a Cancer full moon. It'll be at 4 degrees, which you can see where the moon is, where the sun is. But the moon is going to go another degree here, but it'll be 4 degrees, 55 minutes Cancer. About 7:30, I guess so, yeah. And then it's void of course at 2 in the afternoon. So we got a few hours for a void of course moon on next Tuesday. All right. Well, that is this week's transits and a couple interesting things coming up before the end of the year, but we'll get to that. And really some interesting aspects going to happen next year. So hopefully, we can, we'll look at that real soon, the transits and some of the things to be prepared for in 2024. Wow, we're living through some really interesting times. These are times that our history is written about. So try to be as, I'm, trying to be as on it as I can, as mindful as I can. Yeah, I guess that's the best way to say it, because it's definitely stuff catches you and you just floats you by and you don't realize kind of so much has happened. So much is happening in the world. So anyway, this is this week. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday and we will be back next week. Thanks for being here. Bye for now.